Welcome to Be Bold Branding. Today we're talking with a digital marketing manager for a title insurance underwriter. She's not only created an awesome social media following, but she's creating content and teaching her clients how to use social media to attract their own clients. I'm Tanya Eberhardt, founder of BrandFace. We help business stars differentiate themselves, and we do that through personal branding.
Hi guys, I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was actually a client before I became a partner in the company. We're the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe. And we do Be Bold Branding podcasts to recognize people who put themselves out there boldly and to help you take the fear out of putting yourself out there if that's something that you battle with.
And I'm going to do an introduction for our lovely guest today. Katia Segura began her career in the real estate industry 6 years ago as a title insurance sales rep. With her keen understanding of sales and marketing, she quickly built a personal brand by sharing her expertise through unique social media content. Now that success led her to her current role as digital marketing manager for FNF, Family of Companies, South Florida agency. She's passionate about teaching and aims to show agents that with an array of innovative tools at their disposal, design and marketing do not have to be complex. Her mission is to inspire real estate agents, title agents, and mortgage professionals to market themselves in ways that set them apart from the crowd. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
By effectively using social platforms to attract new clients. Welcome, Katia.
Hey, Michael. Hi, Tanya. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
We're excited to have you on. We'll go ahead and preface this by saying we met Katia, a couple of years ago, and we have just adored her since the day that we met her. She just has this stuff figured out. So we're very happy about you being on this podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us how you got started in this position that you're in and what brought your focus as a content provider for your clients.
Sure. So like Tanya said, I started in the title insurance industry about 6 years ago. I was hired as a sales rep. I had no book of business. I remember the CEO interviewed me and asked me, how much business do you think you can bring in? And I was like, I don't know. I've never done this before. And so shortly after that, I got the job. That's how I got into title. My sales manager, she gave me tools and training for me to start to bring in business. And I did. So I started to connect with real estate agents, started to grow a book of business. And around this time, I kind of noticed that the company could use a little bit more of a social media presence and a little help managing like their, social media platforms, content creation. So I kind of started to fill those holes without me being asked to do so. And my role from there kind of started to merge a little bit. So I was part sales, part in charge of marketing. My third or fourth year in the company, I was like, all right, I'm going to take this up a notch. And I want to show that I have an understanding of how sales and marketing and personal branding can actually attract business. And sure enough, like that year, I started using my Instagram page to create content to attract real estate agents. And I nearly doubled my business that year. And the last year that I was with the company, they had to make a kind of difficult decision whether to pull me out of sales because they really wanted me to focus a lot more on the marketing efforts. And, obviously they thought we were a big team, a big title team. So it was more beneficial, I think, for me to support the entire team with training and classes and those kinds of resources. Now, in theory, that would have been nice, but my social media profiles or Instagram was still attracting real estate agents.
It was still working.
Oh, yeah.
I was still getting business, from these platforms. It's like sales didn't just die off because my role changed.
Right.
And and then that led me now to the position that I'm in with a title insurance underwriter with Fidelity National Financial. And now I'm the digital marketing manager here.
That is awesome.
Yes. And you just proved, Katia, how we always say your personal brand is actually a soldier working for you, even while you sleep. Mm-hmm. So you weren't sleeping by any stretch of the imagination, but you also weren't actively pursuing those clients on the other side. You had taken a whole other role. But what you found was because you embraced and put your personal brand out there in the right way, they were still coming. That's a huge deal to a lot of people that don't really get it. And believe me, there are a lot of people who don't get personal branding.
True. Yeah.
So, you know, the name of this podcast is called Be Bold Branding, right? So what's the boldest thing you've ever done in your business?
So I want, it's funny that you're asking me this question right now, because I do think that a lot of the success with my brand was being, I've had a huge fear of public speaking since I was in college. It was like, I would walk out of a class. If there was too much public speaking involved, I was like, this isn't for me. Bye. Just dreaded it. I suffered with this so bad. And that year that I had, doubled my business, I put myself out there. And I remember like we would have trainings and I would see other people speak in front of like our team. And it bothered me because I was like, I have something that I want to share and my team won't respect me if I can't get in front of them and lead them or teach them. And at the same time, I listened to a podcast where he said, you'll never be respected as a leader in your industry if you cannot speak in front of people. So that really pushed me. I was like, I have to figure out a way to, get through this. And so it's funny because there was a real estate broker that I was kind of going after to try to get business from their real estate agents. And I was in the middle of a move. I remember I was moving that weekend and she's like, hey, I need a class on, social media. On anything. So the first class that I put together was on branding. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like I'm going out there and I'm teaching, and it was in Spanish. So I had no choice. I'm like, I can't say no. And, so this has been something, it's not a fear that I can say 100% I'm over. And I feel like my mindset has kind of changed. I don't think you really eliminate fears, because in certain levels of your life, you level up, there's a different fear and a different risk involved. So I've kind of, my mentality has shifted a lot on how I view fears now. So that's kind of the boldest thing I've done so far.
I love it. I'm sure everybody.
That's a big one.
Yeah, everybody will watch this. You see why we like her so much. Because I just love your mental thought process, because you're right. I don't think you ever get rid of fear of things.
That's true.
I like to say that you have to recategorize what fear is. As an auctioneer, I've been in front of thousands of crowds, and I've done nearly 10,000 auctions in my career. And it's always been in different things. And I find that if I'm doing it every day and I'm in front of that same crowd, well, we're already used to it. But if you put me on a stage where I've got a new crowd or a new product to sell or something like that, I even have these butterflies in my stomach that they never really go away. But I think the more you do things and more you're fearless about setting yourself out like that, you find that you can channel that's really more excitement at some point to what you're getting to do, rather than fear of what you have to do. And once you sort of make that move in your mind, then you begin to see all these magical things around you happen. And you, what I like about you is you figured that out really without any, I think that's why we're in the same, sphere together. You figured out branding and overcoming that, how important that was to what you wanted to attract and make for yourself. And I think that's really what brought us all together and how we met each other, because we were out here teaching us what she taught me, which is the same thing. So it's really killer. Really.
Absolutely. I remember I heard you guys on a podcast. I'm a big podcast listener. I joke with my clients. I tell them I listen to podcasts. I get smarter with every shower because I listen to podcasts when I'm in the shower.
I love it.
I heard you guys on a podcast. I wasn't in the shower. I was driving. And I remember I was so impressed. You guys were talking about a topic that I love, and it's personal branding. And I remember that's when I was like, I have to reach out to them. And now, when I first started my personal brand journey, I think you're always a little bit skeptical, right? You're like, is this, I had heard in a lot of podcasts, they're like, with a brand, you attract people to you. And when I was a new sales rep, I remember calling people, like calling real estate agents, like, hey, please sit with me. And they're like, why? But with my brand, it was the other way around. I had realtors calling me. I had real estate agents calling me. I got business from agents I never met. So I definitely have a lot of buy-in right now that I've seen that this works. Like this 100%, it works. Like I'm a huge believer in this process. It's so worth it.
Yep.
And let me tell you, I want to inject something into this because it's such an important part of what we all do is People think that, okay, your brand is just like people will notice it when they get in front of you, right? And that's true. What you stand for will come out. People have, great comfort sitting across the table from somebody or in a Zoom call or whatever, and getting to know them. And that brand becomes a little bit more apparent and more real when you're one-to-one. However, you're missing so much business if you don't have the brand out there ahead of you. We call that allowing your brand to precede you.
Mhm.
People should already be familiar with you and what you stand for before they ever get on a call with you, a Zoom call, an in-person meeting. They should already know what you stand for. And that's what you're experiencing. A lot of people think, again, you got to wait to get in front of the person. Oh, they'll see all that. Don't they see all my brand? Well, no, not if you don't put it out there. They don't.
Mhm.
And that's a huge chunk of business that I think people are missing.
I definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that a lot of, we were just doing it today, in fact, on a video. We already know people look us up before they call us to do business. So if you wait until your brand is actually explainable when you're in front of that person, you might never get in front of that person. Like, you need that out there first, which segues into the next question for you there, Katia. That if you could only do, or if you could tell another business person to only do one thing to grow their business, aside from, over delivering and under promising, what would that be?
So one thing to do to grow their business?
To grow your business. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I would say to work on your personal brand, especially if it's like a real estate agent or like a title insurance rep. I think that some people rely too much on the corporate brand, and people want to engage with humans, with human beings. And right now there's so much content out there. We're all fighting for attention. And one of the biggest mistakes I think that a lot of us make when we get started, or like realtors, is like, it's just, if it sounds like a billboard, it is a billboard, and nobody really likes that kind of content. It's not engaging. So I like to always lead with value. That was the way that I earned a real estate agent's business back in, when I was a title rep, and focus on content that delivers value to your community. That is what generates the attention. I tell everyone, like, my goal on social media is to start conversations. It's not like, here's a DM, I have a deal for you, or no, like, conversations are worth so much. And I think we miss that understanding of how important conversation is. So honestly, I think anything that starts conversation, if it's in your content, or even when you go to Starbucks and buy coffee, just be somebody that is so mindful of how important conversation is everywhere.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great point.
It's so true. That engagement buzzword that people have been talking about for many years. It's nothing more than starting a conversation. You're right. You're right.
And I think you have to separate. We had a guest on last week, but and she's really got a huge following, a social media following. But she said, look, those days are sort of over. Like, you need to be working on how you can engage that local community. And it's just what you just said. Like, if you can,
your own sphere,
you're better to have conversation inside your own sphere, and that sphere be small but produce, than trying to chase huge numbers of people that don't really know you, don't have time to pay attention to you, don't see all your feeds on your posts that look like billboards, and they're not engaging to it. And I think that you back that play. You've got to have that conversation with them. And I noticed that about you when we first got connected, and that's how you connected up with us. It started with a conversation, a reach out, and then just led to that. So that's a very good point. Very good point.
Exactly. Okay. So another question for you. If you could be more bold about any part of your life, either professionally or personally, what would that be, and how would you change it?
So, I think that oftentimes, like, I'm 32 years old, and I can look back at things and say, like, man, I wish that I would have, maybe started facing my fears a little bit sooner. And, I think there's different seasons in life. I think who I am in my 20s, or the experience you go through at that stage, is different than where I'm at now. Do I wish, that I would have started, maybe sooner? I probably would have, grown, had a few more years on me. I mean, I don't know. But I have learned now what matters is that I'm, I approach things even though I'm scared or there's fears, there's more of a reward, I think, at the other end. Something else that I did this year that was bold, I quit my job the same year that I'm planning my wedding.
That's what we,
a lot of boldness, okay? So, but sometimes you have to step out in faith, and I think everything is a journey. So I can look back at things, and yeah, there's times where I'm like, man, I wish I would have done that, sooner. But all of that experience that I went through, and all of the things that I think I might have missed out on, have kind of led to where I'm at right now. And
You bet.
now I'm bold, so that's what matters to me.
exactly. That's exactly right.
That is so true. So true, Katya. It's funny. I used to tell my daughter when she was little, she was afraid of everything. She was very socially, she was very withdrawn, and she didn't want to drive. She didn't want to go into a restaurant by herself and order, anything, even takeout food, and I would just take it one thing at a time. I say, look, here's what you've got to do, sweetie. When you are afraid of something, you walk through the door and you just do it. You've got to you just do it, and then come back and tell me how it goes. Okay. So I was giving her homework that was going against her, but what she was focused on is coming back and telling me how it went. And so she went in and she faced that fear, and she came back all giddy. It's like, mom, I did this today. I went in and ordered my own food, and you told me just do it. And I said, and look, you're still alive. But it just reminds me of that, when you say sometimes you got to step out in faith, you do.
Yeah, you do.
That's what life is all about, is taking those risks, not calculating them too much. Calculated risks are good, but if you calculate too much, you'll spend all your time with a calculator.
Might not do anything.
Right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
You'll never take a step. And it's the magic is in the movement, right? In doing it, and it's not going to kill you. And so once you live through it, you're like, oh, well, what was I worried about?
That's so true.
Yep.
But it's such a human element. Like, I don't think that there's anybody on earth that has felt different than that. I really don't. No matter how much of a speaker that they are now, or how big of the crowd is that they're out in front of, I just don't believe that somebody's just born with any ability to put themselves out there, whether that be to the person across the street, to a conversation in a crowd that you've never been in, or being on a stage, or being in front of social media live, whatever that might be. I think that's all human. We all have that exact same trait. So those people that you see out there that are overcoming that, they just took steps that you're starting on, but they felt the same
Absolutely.
thing. I really feel it.
That's so funny. I hired a coach to help me with public speaking. I truly believe at this point too in my life that when you need help with something, like, hire someone to help you.
Absolutely.
Have somebody in your corner who can tell you, how to get these things done. And I guess a part of me was still hoping for a magic wand moment, like, oh, this is going to make it go away. And then recently I just spoke. It was a virtual conference that our local board hosted, and I spoke the same day as Ed Stulak and Chelsea Pites, who are obviously very well known in the industry. And that was when I realized, I almost had a panic attack, I think 2 days before the conference, that I had to coach myself through. But that's why I realized too, when, there's always, we perceive the stakes are higher, or, we're always constantly aware, right? Of what's going on. So the fear is not going to go away, but you know what, these are great opportunities for me professionally. I have something of value that I really want to share with people. I care about providing that information and that value. So like what you said, Michael, I think, and I also learned people are not born with, I would look at people who could speak in front of them and I'm like, they were born like that. And then I realized that's not true.
Well, I think you nailed it with one thing you just said, when you, and all these years later, and we've both been speaking for almost 30 years apiece, and I still have those little butterflies sometimes. It doesn't matter what stage I'm on. Sometimes even before I hit this button, for Be Bold branding episodes, it's like you feel these little butterflies, right? And I think it all comes back to actually caring about it.
I agree with that.
It does.
Excellent.
Because it goes from fright to excitement. You said it going to excitement. And that excitement is, I care about how this comes across, and I care about this person we're interviewing, and I care that the message we're all trying to get across gets to the right people. And because it's what we wake up to do every day, God gives us all these, all of us different gifts, and we hope to be able to use them in the way that's most appropriate for the right timing and the right people. And those things do matter.
Yeah, that's an excellent one.
Yes.
And I think authenticity too, Katya, you clearly see that you want to share this content and that you have content to share. And I think that comes across. I remember seeing your post. I don't remember the pertinence, but I remember seeing your post after you had given that your presentation and stuff, and how you were ecstatic about it, and it went so good. And I remember that. So it was very clear that you have the authenticity. You want to share what the knowledge that you have and grow that community. And I think that's the second part, overcoming the fear and putting yourself out there with a personal brand, and then knowing you have that authenticity to do that. And I think,
Michael, when you talk about like that post, I feel like a lot of times we don't I didn't post that 2 days before that. I almost had like a panic attack, and I had to call my coach and I had to call my boss. I was like, help me get through this. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why I'm so nervous. And the following day I was fine. I mean, yeah, I went in with like some jitters and all that, but I think a lot of the times, especially with social media, like we see the final result. And I'm like, I would tell people, I wish that you could see how much work it takes me to get myself ready to go and give a presentation, or like, I'm not like, oh, let me just wake up this day and there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes.
There sure is.
There, to be able to do that. So that I think that's important to, realize and kind of point out in this.
Yeah, I agree. But it does come out. And when you put that effort in,
absolutely,
and people can tell it on that other side, and you're very good at that.
That's awesome.
And we could segue into the next thing with that, right? Because we're talking to other people out there that maybe haven't taken the first steps like you have and we have, and trying to put on that personal brand and build it. So plenty of other agents, business owners, entrepreneurs watching and are going to watch have fears about that kind of. They might not quit their job the same year that they're planning their wedding. You know what I mean? But they have these fears of putting themselves out there. They may be concerned with things like intimidation regarding their competitors, even, or fearful of what people would think of them, or if they put their story out there. What's the advice you would give them?
Man, get more afraid of the opportunities you're going to lose and miss out on. I feel like you need to realize you're going to miss out on so many opportunities. Fears can either paralyze you and stop you, or they fuel you. And it's all about your mindset and what you do. The fear is always going to be there. Remember, I learned fear doesn't go away. Right. And when I started, every video that I did, I remember thinking like, what the vanity metrics, like we get so caught up in so many things with social media. And I remember when I first started this, I posted a video on my Facebook, and a real estate agent that I have on my Facebook page who never interacted with my content called me. So I was like, you know what, we focus so many things on the wrong things, and you know what, it's working for you. You never know who's watching. You don't know who you're influencing, who you're reaching. So just do it, just do it and don't think about it. Like, just put it out there.
Might be the best answer we've ever heard.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Love that answer.
Great. Fantastic advice.
Love that answer. Really, and by the way, congratulations on your upcoming wedding.
Thank you so much. When's
it happening?
November 11th. Yeah. That's a lot of work.
Oh yeah. A lot more work than preparing for a presentation too, right?
Yes. Oh gosh, a lot.
Well, tell everybody how prospects can reach you and where you want them to follow you.
You guys can connect with me on Instagram. It's my favorite platform to connect with people. So you can look me up, Katia, KATIA_FNF agency. And I look forward to connecting with you guys there. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
You are so welcome. And thank you for coming on and giving us a smile today, Katia. You're an angel.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We'd like to invite everybody to our new Facebook group called Build Your Real Estate Brand. You'll find content and engagement there that you're not going to find anywhere else. Our team is standing by to open those gates. It's Build Your Real Estate Brand Facebook group. So join us there, please.
And if you have any questions about your brand or want to learn more about us, head to discussyourbrand.com and you can schedule a free session with our team. And Katia, once again, thank you so very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us. And, for all you out there, we talk about this, it's about prosperity. When we say prosperity, we're not just talking about money, of course, we're talking about the full 360 of an abundant life. We know that at BrandFace, that prosperity favors the bold. So we say, be bold, folks, especially with your personal brand, especially in 2021. And thank you, Ms. Tanya, and thank you, Ms. Katya, for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. And we will see you next time on Be Bold Branding.